Hey guys, how is it going? I'm going to get started with your next factoring note. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about factoring and how we could possibly use it, because I know sometimes it's really frustrating looking over something and being like, what's the point of this? So yeah, I just wanted to go through it with you, and then so this is just adding on to the factoring. There's just one more little step that we're going to be adding on from the previous note. Okay. Before I do get started, I just want to let you know I did post on Edsby that I'm going to start using the Remind app. So it's like an app where technically I can text you, but it's just through a safer platform because, well, I'm not going to give out my phone number and I definitely don't want yours. So if you go to the website, you'll see that I posted a little message and then it has invite. And if you open it, you got to download the app and then you can put in your information and then we can communicate that way. And I think it'd just be so much easier because opposed to me sending stuff on Edsby, you're probably going to check your phone more than you're going to check Edsby. And then another reminder that I keep saying is you guys are allowed to redo assignments. Some of you that are failing or have failed the previous assignment, you haven't redone it. So just stuff like that. Hopefully it helps. I guess we'll see. So hopefully some of you guys will get joined on that soon. Okay, so before I get into this, you guys are probably like, what is the point of this, right? And I agree. There are different ways that you can use factoring, just like there is with anything with respect to math. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, I don't ever plan on doing something like that. Okay, yeah. But unfortunately, the government wants you to learn it, so I thought I'd give you some different ideas on how it would be used. So, I'm going to go through a couple of examples, like word problems, but I want to show you from a couple of different websites. So, real world examples of quadratic equations. So, a quadratic equation looks like this. So, we saw this right here. The only difference is with grade 10 applied, you see how there's that 5 right here? Oops. You see how there's that 5? I can't really highlight it. I apologize. We don't have a number in front of that. Okay, if you were an academic, you probably would. I don't recall. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So you guys might get it next year though. There might be a number there. And if you remember, that 5 would represent the letter A, right? And ax squared plus bx plus c. So they can pop up in many different types of equations. So, for example, throwing a ball. So a ball is thrown straight up from 3 meters above the ground with a velocity of 14 meters per second. When does the ball hit the ground? Well, we can graph this once we figure out what our equation is, or we can do it by factoring. Okay? So, again, it says here, in standard form, it looks like this. We have to have it in standard form, like I said, or it's going to be very difficult to factor. As you can see here, the letters this time are T. I used X yesterday. It's only because we have a word problem, so it's being associated with time. Okay? So if you see here, now I'm not going to go through this one because it's a lot more difficult than what you guys have to do. So I'm not going to go through the details. But here's what the graph would look like, and it says when will it hit the ground? Well, if you look at the y-axis, it has an h that represents height. And if you use common sense, well, when it hits the ground, it has a height of 0. So we want to know when it hits 0. Okay? And then if you were to look, there's 2 answers, right? Because it's technically the x-intercept. Well, we know our x-line, our x-axis, or t represents time. Well, we can't have negative time, so that doesn't apply to us. So again, guys, this is just an example. There's another one. Okay, so a sports bike. This has to deal with money. And now this is where things like this is where quadratics would be really important for, is talking about cost and revenue. Because if you think about it, what you want to do if you're selling something or making and selling something, you want to try and make as much money as you can. And if you look at it, if you think about it, now some of you will understand this better than others. When you make stuff, you have to pay people for it, depending on what you're making. If it's individual, that's fine. But also, you got to think about your product, right? You have to buy product for you to be able to make it. So it's going to look like a curve, and you got to be able to find that balance with respect to how much money you're going to spend, how much you're going to sell. So that was a very vague example of what I was talking about. But sometimes if you make too much product and you don't sell enough, you're not going to make any money. You're probably going to lose money. Excuse me. And that's where this curve starts coming back down. So you have to be able to find that balance where you don't overmake, so you're not spending too much, but you're making enough so you can make as much as you can. Now, there are different examples with respect to... There's different examples that we can apply that will make sense, because obviously you need details, right? But it's, as I'm trying to explain to you, it's just an example. Here's another example that has to do with area. Now, the question that we're going to be dealing with actually does have to do with area, but those who are going to get into construction and building, this would be something too. So your company is going to make frames as part of a new product. The frame will be cut out of a piece of steel, and to keep the weight down, the final area should be 28 centimeters squared. Okay, that's area, length times width. The inside of the frame has to be 11 centimeters by 6 centimeters. What should the width of X be? Okay, so we know the area of that frame, here's a picture here, it's going to be 28 centimeters squared. We know that the inside, we know what the dimensions are. We don't know what the dimensions are on the outside. And we got to know what that width is. So how on earth could we do it? Well, we use the quadratic formula. So again, you're not going to be getting a job and you wouldn't be expected to know this off the top of your head. Okay? But you have to have an idea of how it works if this is the kind of job that you're going to get into. So... sorry, I lost my train of thought. So if you're able to do this math, they're going to be highly impressed, and they're going to know, oh, they know what they're doing. But of course, you're going to want to be taught it first. Here's another example. It has to do with area. So you have a 50-foot roll of fencing in a large field. You want to construct a rectangular playground area. What are the dimensions of the largest such yard? What is the largest area? So if you were to think about it with respect to area, it's length times width. Right? So if you have 500 feet, you look at your width and you look at your length, and you can have a huge amount. That's a different question. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm going too far. You could have a different amount for width per height. Or width, I'm sorry, length. So you would just be like, well, it's 500 foot, just do 250 and 250. I'm like, well, if you look at area, it's length times width. 250 times 250 isn't 500. Right? It's 62,500. So that wouldn't work. So, sorry, I promise I won't rant too much longer. I'm just going to use this area really quick. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. So we said 500 feet. We know area is equal to length times width. So we have length. Sorry, that should technically be width, I think. Length times width. Right? We said it's a rectangle. So if I have my width as 1, That means this is 1. And then that means I have 498 left. Well, 498 divided by 2 is 249. 249, 249. Okay, so that's 249 feet, 1 foot. So if you think about it, this would actually look like this. Well, how boring of a play area would that be? So again, if you go again by 2, okay, I'm going to do 2 by 2. So that's 4. 500 minus 4. I'm just trying to find what the rest of because these two have to be the same length, right? 500 minus 2 is 496. Divide that by 2, because that's, again, got to go here and here. 496 divided by 2 is 248. That makes sense. So then that would be double here, and then this one would be just a little bit shorter, right? 2 and then 248. So if you kept going like that, doing the trial and error stuff, that's going to take forever. So they want to know what the biggest area is going to be, right? So again, I know I didn't completely go through that entire question. It's just, it would be way better than doing trial and error. That's the point that I'm trying to get at, okay? So let's get on with today's note. And with respect to factoring, there's something else that I was been thinking of. With respect to that chart, I kind of messed it up for the last note. So, learning goal. So, solve quadratic expressions. So, there's one more step that we need to do. So, solving the equation in the form of this. Do you guys remember what that form's called? It's called standard form. So if we don't have it in standard form, it's very, very, very difficult to factor. So you put it in standard form. So what that means is we're determining the roots, the zeros, or the x-intercepts. These are all the same thing, okay? And what does that mean? That means we're finding the point when the parabola, that's what that curved line is, I'm trying to see if there's an example on this page, hits the x-intercepts. So right crosses those x lines. Okay, here and here. So we just have to do one more step. That's all I'm saying. One more step. So set the equation to equal to 0. So as you can see right here, set the equation equal to 0, it's equal to 0. All that's telling me is that we're going to be taking it, that one step, we're solving for x. Factor the polynomial. So we're going to factor just like we were doing with the previous lesson. So we need to find two numbers that add to -3 and multiply to -40. Now, remember how I was saying we were going through all those numbers, we had to list it twice? This is what I was thinking that could be different. We need to find the multiples of 40, -40. But if we go to that chart first, we can kind of narrow down our numbers. Now what I mean is, I'm going to take this guy here, okay, and I'm going to bring him to the other page, just so we can remember what it is. Oh no! Oh no! Okay. Edit. Okay, so what do we got? We've got x squared is equal to, oh no, minus 3x minus 40 is equal to 0, correct? Yeah. So, is the b term positive or negative? So we look at our b term. It's got that negative symbol in front of it, so it is negative. So I'm going to go this way. That means the bigger multiple is negative. Awesome. So if we make a little side note, bigger number is negative. Okay, and you'll see what I mean by in a sec. Okay, next one. Is the C term positive or negative? It is negative. So the bigger number is negative, like we already determined, and the smaller term is positive. Okay, so if I go here, smaller is positive. Now I can go through all the multiples of 40, and I don't have to list them twice. I just have to list them once. So I'm going to go to my factor sheet, cancel, cancel, go over here. I'm going to find my 40. Here it is. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write them down. I've got 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. I believe that's it. Yeah. So what did our notes say over here? The bigger number is negative, the smaller is positive. So that means this is negative, this is negative, this is negative, this is negative. So it's going to be one set of this. If you don't want to do that, if you want to double that and put the positive and negative in both of them, go for it. I just thought maybe this would be a little easier. Okay, so multiply to negative 40, we've done that. Add to negative 3. Okay. 1 minus 40, 1 plus minus 40 is negative 39. That's not our number. 2 plus minus 20, so 2 minus 20. Again, if you need your calculator, go for it. Negative 18, not our number. 4 plus negative 10, negative 6, not our number. 5 plus negative 8 is negative 3, and that is our number. So our numbers are x plus 5, x minus 8. Again, guys, stuff's super duper important. You need to practice this for you to get good at it. Okay, I can't stress that enough. Okay, so we factored it. So now it says set each of these factored equations to 0 and solve. So what that means is I'm going to do x plus 5 is equal to 0. So I got rid of the bracket and I'm making it equal to 0. And I'm going to do it for both. Okay? Now I have to solve for x, which you guys have been doing since since February. So that's what this means, left side, right side. Number side, letter side. So x plus 5 is equal to 0. What's the opposite of plus 5? Minus 5. What you do to one side, you do to the other. X is equal to negative 5. Let's go to the other side. X minus 8, what's the opposite of minus 8? Plus 8. Those two cross out, it gives me 0. X is equal to 8. What does this mean? This means that on my parabola, if I were to graph it, okay, you guys, so here's my cross, my Cartesian plane. Here's my x. That means this parabola, so the shape of it looks like this. It's going to cross at negative 5. So I'm going to use some colors here. x is equal to -5. That means it's going to cross here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, this is my negative side. So it's going to cross here. And it's going to cross at +8. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. The only reason I use the colors is just for you guys to see. And it's going to go, it's going to look like that. Okay. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to Desmos. And I'm going to type in that exact equation. So I'm going to do y equals, just so I think it has to read it that way. Y squared minus 3x minus 40. Is that right? I'm going to double check it. X squared minus 3x minus 40. X squared minus 3x minus 40. Where does it cross our x-axis? That's what we're solving this for. Oh my goodness. As you can see here, -5, 0. I know that's my x-intercept because y is equal to 0. And 8. It is like magic. Okay? Practice, practice, practice. I know I can already see some of your heads just spinning right now, and that's okay. This stuff takes practice. Okay, guys? Okay. Okay, so another thing to add in, we won't be getting more into detail about this until next week. Where does it cross the y-intercept? Do you guys remember? Or what is the y-intercept? Remember, it's when x equals to 0, minus 40. Where do we see minus 40? It's in our original equation. Okay, so let's do it again. So, we need two numbers that multiply to -20. Okay. Let's set this up first. Let's grab our chart. Both B and C are negative. So, B. My B is negative. So the bigger number is negative. C is also negative. The bigger term or the bigger number is negative. The smaller term is positive. So, again, little side note. Big number, negative. Small number, positive. Okay, so let's get my multiples of 20 out. We go to here, we go to 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. So there's 3 of them. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Now let's go to our note. The bigger number's negative, the smaller number's positive. Negative, negative, negative. Good. So now, it needs to add to -8. 1 plus -20 is -19. Is that -8? Nope. 2 plus -10 is -8. Ah, look at that. Here's my numbers right here. So, my two numbers are x plus 2, x minus 10. Okay? Here we go. Again, we have to go to the next step. We got to make these equal to 0. X plus 2 is equal to 0. X minus 10 is equal to 0. Left side, right side. Is x by itself for x plus 2? I'm over here. Is x by itself? No. Okay. So I have to do minus 2 on both sides. That means x is equal to negative 2. Over here, the other side. Oops. Okay. Is x by itself? Nope. We've got that negative 10. So we have to add 10 to both sides. Okay, life is all about balance. X is equal to 10. That means my parabola is going to cross at negative 2 and positive 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I am super exaggerating this. So it's going to look something like, woo. Okay. Let's see how she does. X squared. X squared minus 8x minus 20. Okay, I put the original equation back in. X-intercept, X-intercept. Holy smokes, look at that. You would never believe it. Or you would, I don't know. Okay, so again, guys, take your time with this. Pause if you need to. Try it yourselves. Just really take your time. That's all I'm asking. Okay? Okay. So for this example here, I'm not going to go back and graph it for you because hopefully by now you believe me. And if you don't, I apologize. So, first things first, what do? We find a number that multiplies to 24. Okay, so let's go to our graph. So our B is negative, as you can see right here, and our C is positive. So let's use that for our chart. I don't know why that takes so long. Okay, what'd I say? Our B is negative. Is the B term positive or negative? Okay, so it's negative. So I'm going to go this way. The bigger multiple is negative. Awesome. Is the C term positive or negative? Let's go back. The C term is negative. Or sorry, the C term's positive. So I'm going to go this way this time. Both terms are negative. Well, that's easy. Easy for me to remember. So let me get my side note in there. Again, if you guys don't need to do this, don't do it. Both are negative. Okay, so let's get my terms for 24. Again, those of you who are really good with your multiplication skills, you could probably already know what the number is. The two numbers are. Okay, 24. We got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. So, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Remember, both of these are negatives. So, negative, 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 negative. Now I have to add, so we get negative 10. Okay? Negative 1 plus negative 24 is negative 25. That is not negative 10. Negative 12 minus negative 2 plus negative 12 is negative 14. That's not negative 10. Negative 3 plus negative 8, negative 11. That's not negative 10. Process of elimination, negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. So my numbers are x minus 4 x minus 6. Now we have to make them equal to 0. If you guys have noticed that all we have to do here is switch the sign that was in the bracket, you are absolutely right. So, I'm going to continue, though. Solve for x. That means get x by itself. Is x by itself? Nope. It's got that negative 4 with it. Opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. Those two cross out. X is equal to 4. Negative 6. Opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. Those two cross out. X is equal to 6. And those are my final answers. Okay? So when it comes to your quiz on Friday, guys, when it says solve the equations, I'm going to say I want it x equals whatever, okay? Just so you're aware. There's a couple of your turn questions, guys. I am posting homework, of course, but I'm going to just let you guys have those. I would give you just the final answer, but then that kind of defeats the work. Also, those of you, and I know there is at least one person doing it, if you just put this in Photomath, it's not going to help you with anything. So if that's what you're doing, good luck. Ugh. Okay, come on. All right. So, couple word problems. So, I'm going to go through this slowly with you guys. Make sure you're following along. A plot of land for sale has a width of x feet. Okay, so I'm going to do it green because it's a plot of land. There's my length, and there's my width. Okay, plot of land has a width of x feet. So, I'm going to do x. Because that's what's representing it, okay? The length is 8 feet less than the width. So that might sound confusing, but if you think about it, it's 8 feet less. That means if my width was 10 feet, my length would be 2 feet. Because 10 minus 8 is 2. The length is 8 feet less is subtraction. 8. I don't know what my width is, so it's going to be x minus 8. Okay, whatever my width is, my length is 8 feet shorter. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, well, then shouldn't that be the... I don't know. Don't worry about that. A farmer will only purchase the land if it measures to be 240 square feet. What value will x will cause the farmer to purchase the land? So, we know area is equal to length times width, right? There's my length, there's my width. So, I'm going to write it again here. My length is, I'm going to put in bracket, x minus 8. My width is x. He wants it at least 240 square feet. I'm sure if it's more, he'll probably go, I don't know. This represents area. So that goes here. Okay. So, we need to solve for this, meaning we need to factor it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this bracket. So it's like FOIL. Another way that you guys may have seen it or might be more comfortable looking at it is like this. X bracket x minus 8. And then we go like this. Okay, it's the same thing. I promise you. So if I do x times x, that's going to be x squared. And then I do negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Okay? So I've expanded it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 240 so it's 0 on that side. Because if you guys look up here, all of these are equal to 0. That means we're going to be solving it. Yes, this does come up again in grade 11. So I need to get rid of this minus 240 because 240 minus 240 is 0, which is what we want. So that means I got to do minus 240 over here. So this is what we need to factor. Okay? So I'm going to move it up over here. So we need to find two numbers that multiply to this. You're going to be like, well, Miss B, your fact sheet doesn't go up to 240. Yeah, you're right. I know. Seeing as I'm doing this one with you, we can get away with it. The word problem I give you for your test on Friday, I'll make sure there's no number past 100. Okay? So, before we do that, I'm going to do my side note. Okay. That's my side note. Both of them are negative. I'm not even going to draw it on this time. B term's negative, C term's negative. That means the bigger term is negative, the smaller term is positive. Big is negative, small is positive. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Google factors of 240. Holy moly, there's a lot of them. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot. And the difference between them has to be 8. So, are you ready? Hold your horses. 1 and 240. 2 and 120. 3 and 80. 4 and 60. 5 and 48. 6 and 40. 8 and 30. 10 and 24. 12 and 20. 15 and 16. So, we know the bigger number is negative. So, negative, 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 negative. Negative, negative. Okay. So, now we need to find two numbers that add to negative 8, right? Add, multiply. So, some of you are going to recognize it right away. The difference here, the two numbers have to add to negative 8. So 1 minus 240 is 239. That's a huge gap. It's not going to happen. 2 plus negative 120. That's negative 118. That's not going to happen. Like, those numbers are big. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat and start at the other side. 15 minus 16. 15 plus negative 16 is negative 1. Nope. 12 plus negative 20 is negative 8. Oh, see, if what I'm trying to say is, the better you are with numbers, the faster it'll be for you to figure it out. Doesn't mean you won't be able to figure it out. I just mean it's faster. Okay? So, we know our numbers are. I'm going to go into the green box, guys, for space. X plus 12, X minus 20. So, oops. We can only have one value for X. We can't have two different numbers represent X because that doesn't make sense. We can only have one value that represents X. So, we need to solve for this. X plus 12 is equal to 0. You guys, I went through this many times. X is equal to negative 12. X minus 20 is equal to 0. X is equal to positive 20. It can only be one of these. This or this. Because if we think about it, our width is equal to one of these numbers. So do we have a width of negative 12 feet or 20 feet? Well, I'm really hoping you say you can't have negative width. So we can't even use that number. We got to disregard it. That means our width is 20. And what's my length? Well, it's 20 minus 8, which is equal to 12. And that's it. I know it's not just that's it. I get it. That's a lot. But as I said, the more practice, the better. I've been going on for a while, so I'm not going to do this one right now. Okay. I'm going to post this another day, so you guys try it. I'm not going to go into anything too intense, but please do attempt it, guys, because this stuff is so important. I couldn't even exaggerate enough how important this is. Okay? Alrighty, guys. Practice, practice, practice. And message me on Remind Me. See you later.